Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Radha Girdhari Ki Jai, Jam Vishpad Paramahamsa Pravajikacharya Sotar Sata Shishimade Si Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shil Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Charya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishpad Paramahamsa Pravajikacharya Sotar Sata Shishimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sadgoswami Prabhugan Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Ganga Mai Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulsi Maharani Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Srila Prabhupada's Translated Book Distribution Ki Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru, Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Pallai Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Vishesha Sunadi Paschachadistani. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're getting to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 31. Narada instructs the Prachetas. Text number 14. Famous verse. Yata Tor Mula Nishechanena. Yata Toror Mula Nishechanena. Chipyanti Tat Skanda Pajopashaka. Tripyanti tat skanda bajopashaka. Pranopaharach cha yatindriyanam. Pranopaharach cha yatindriyanam. Tataiva savarhanam achuteja. Tataiva sarvahanam achuteja. Yatatoror mula nishechanena. Tripyanti tat skanda bajopashaka. Pranopaharachcha yatindriyanam. Tataiva sarvahanam achuteja. Yatatoror mula nishechanena. Tripyanti tat skanda bajopashaka. Pranoharachcha yatindriyanam. Tataiva savarhanam achutyateja. Yatatoror mula nishechena. Yatatoror mula nishechena. Tripyanti tat skanda bijopashaka. Pranopararachcha yatindriyanam. Tataiva sarvahanam achutateja. Yata, as, taro, of a tree, mula, the root, nishechanena, by watering, tripyanti, are satisfied. Tat, its, skanda, trunk, bhuja, branches, upashaka, and twigs, prana, the life air, upahara, by feeding, cha, and yata, as, indriyanam, of the senses, tata eva, similarly, sarva, of all demigods, arnam, worship, achyuta, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ija, worship, as pouring water on the root of a tree energizes the trunk, branches, twigs, and everything else, and as supplying food to the stomach enlivens the senses and limbs of the body, simply worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service automatically satisfies the demigods who are parts of that Supreme Personality. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes people ask why this Krishna consciousness movement simply advocates worship of Krishna to the exclusion of the demigods. The answer is given in this verse. The example of pouring water on the root of a tree is very appropriate. In Bhagavad Gita 15.1, it is said, Urdhvam moolam adhasharka. This cosmic manifestation is expanded downward, and the root is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As the Lord confirms in Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Aham sarvasya prabhava, I'm the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Krishna is the root of everything. Therefore, rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna Seva, means automatically serving all the demigods. Sometimes it's argued that karma and jnana require a mixture of bhakti in order to be successfully executed. Is that true? Yes? Okay. And sometimes it's argued that bhakti also requires karma and jnana for its successful termination. Is that true? No. The fact is, however, that although karma and jnana cannot be successful without bhakti, bhakti does not require the help of karma and jnana. Actually, as described by Srila Rupa Goswami, Anyabhilashitasman yam jnana karma adyanavritam, pure devotional service should not be contaminated by the touch of karma and jnana. Modern society is involved in various types of philanthropic works, humanitarian works, and so on. But people do not know that these activities will never be successful unless Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is brought into the center. One may ask what harm there is in worshiping Krishna and the different parts of his bodies, the demigods. The answer is also given in this verse. The point is that by supplying food to the stomach, the indriyas or senses are automatically satisfied. If one tries to feed his eyes or ears independently, the result is only havoc. Simply by supplying food to the stomach, we satisfy all the senses. It's neither necessary nor feasible to render separate service to the individual senses. The conclusion is that by serving Krishna, Krishna Seva. Everything is complete. As confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 2262, Krishna Bhakti Kaila Sarva Karma Krita Hai. If one is engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything is automatically accomplished. Could we please pray together? Om Jnana-timirandasya Ginanjana Salakya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sita Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karana Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakopa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Srila Prabhupada, it's really cool. In the previous verse, actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original source of all self-realization. Consequently, the goal of all auspicious activities, karma, gyan, yoga, and bhakti, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada talks about the energies of the Lord in that purport, material and marginal or spiritual. And he says that the living entity is always Prakriti, not Purusha. You'll never find in Vedic literatures that the living entity is equated with the Supreme Lord. So there he's taking the axe to impersonalism. It's just as important as we're not the body. If you open your eyes to Prabhupada's purports, you'll see Prabhupada again and again and again destroying the misconception of impersonalism. In this verse, we go to the second part, another aspect. He said, in India, I think I'm the only one who is preaching so boldly against impersonalism and demigod worship. I mean, everybody in India worships the demigods, don't they? Who did your parents worship? Primarily. Lord Shiva, how about you, Ravi? Who were they? Where's the microphone? So Prakash Prabhu said his family worshipped Shiva primarily, and now Ravi's saying 4 or 5 demigods worshipped by his family.
Yes, so they worship Ganesh, Shiva, Lakshmi, and primarily these 3, I should say.
Ganesh,
Shiva, and Lakshmi.
Okay. Thank you. So the verse that Srila Prabhupada's quoting from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's spoken by Lord Chaitanya. It's the second line. First is Shraddha Sabdi Vishvasa Kahi Siddhida Nischaya Krishna Bhakti Kaila Sarva Karma Krita Hai. Shraddha is confident, firm faith that by rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna, one automatically performs all the subsidiary activities. Such faith is favorable to the discharge of devotional service. Of course, the subsidiary activities in this context is worship of the demigods. So some people ask why this Krishna consciousness movement simply advocates worship of Krishna to the exclusion of the demigods. It's because Srila Prabhupada wants everyone to understand there is one God and only one God. Ekala Ishvara Krishna Arasara Britya. Krishna is the Supreme Personality Godhead, and everybody else, including Shiva, Ganesh, Lakshmi, etc., all the demigods, they are his servants. But people don't understand that in India. They think there are many gods. This is the contamination of impersonalism, and you can just see how the two mesh together. If I worship Lakshmi, I can go to Brahman. If I worship Shiva, I can go to Brahman. And you can also get so many other goodies. These parties for the rich and famous will hand out gift bags. So by worship of the demigods, you'll get a gift bag of so many goodies. For us in the West, this concept is just like, it doesn't resonate very much, does it? Because we were never taught to worship demigods. Instead, what's more apropos for us is that instead of taking shelter of the demigods for the fulfillment of our material desires, people take shelter of the mundane scientist. They put all their stock in science. I mean, if people could just step back and be a little detached from their madness for sense gratification, they could see what a mess this world is. Why? Because of the material scientist. I mean, my goodness, you know, they talk about this climate change. I actually saw a headline the other day where they were touting a theory, maybe we can change the rotation of the earth to adjust the climate upon us and the planet. These kind of sciences are so arrogant. They obviously think they are as good as God. There is no God. I am the Supreme. I mean, one fool the other day said, if you're criticizing me, you're criticizing science. You're darn right. I'm criticizing science right now. Because if science is not applied to understand that Krishna is the source of everything, aham sarvasya prabhavo mat tat sarvam pravartate iti mat bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. If science is not used, the intelligence is not used to understand that Krishna is the root of everything. He referred to the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna was giving an analogy to help us conditioned souls understand the complexity of this material world. I mean, he really simplifies it. It's inconceivable. Who can conceive of? We're trying to figure out one planet. We haven't seen all the depths of the oceans or, you know, what's inside the planet or so many things. And then there's so many, how would you say, things that are not visible to the human eye on different energy links or what have you. We don't see, but there are subtle entities, there are subtle realities, etc. This creation is inconceivable. No question, but he simplifies it. Supreme Personality Godhead said, it's said that there's an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. The tree also has its roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Thereafter one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began, and from whom everything is extended since time immemorial. 15, 1 through 4. So science is meant for understanding. I mean, they want to know what. They try to speculate, how did the universe come about? How long will it last? Will it end? Is it infinite? They have that's human nature to question. But without the help of the Vedic scriptures and Krishna himself, the creator, what will they understand with their speculations? Impersonalism. Oh, it must be different than this, because this place, form, activities, etc., etc. So it must be, Brahman. Nothing. Came from nothing. Some little, and then all of a sudden, such speculations. So I can safely say, because Tapas Prabhu has pulled it off, where not only are on YouTube, we got yanked for a couple, 3 days from YouTube, but we're also on Twitch simultaneously. They don't censor what you had to say. We're simply repeating the words of Scripture and the words of Krishna delivered to us in Parampara. And Prabhupada is establishing, I think Tamal Krishna Goswami in his PhD thesis said, Srila Prabhupada coined the phrase, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the English translation he gave for Krishna Bhagavan, Bhagavan Sri Krishna. So Krishna, that's who we worship, because we accept what he has to say. Well, what's the origin of Krishna, someone might ask. There is no other origin. Prabhupada one time in a conversation said, if you can establish irrefutably that Krishna has a cause, then we'll worship that cause. Because we're going to the root. That's the whole point of this verse. You cut out all the unnecessary middlemen. And all the middlemen at best are giving you those toys and those trinkets that I mentioned were in the gift bag. Those things that are being offered by the demigods are what keep us in this material world. And we already said what a mess this world is. Even if it was paradise, you still grow old. There's disease. You have to give up the body, commonly referred to as death. And if you haven't given up all material desire for enjoying separately from Krishna's service in this world, if you haven't given that up, then you take birth again. So that's Krishna's statement. Balaram, what's that verse? Brahma Bhuvana Loka? 1 second. Thank you, Ravi.
Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punar Arvitun Arjuna. Is it? Yeah.
I could have said the first two. I was hoping you had the second two on your tongue. 8th chapter.
Said the Dukalayam Ashashvatam.
Yeah.
Mamupetya Tukonteya Dukalayam Ashashvatam. Something like that.
8th chapter. Thank you, Balaram. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punar Arvartanorjana Mamapetya Tikonteya Punarjanma Nividyate. 8:16. So they're only going to give us that which will keep us in the material world. And the funny thing about it is, they can't give it to us without the sanction of Krishna. They're completely dependent upon Krishna. So Krishna, he creates the demigods, which are his different limbs to execute his purpose in universal management, etc. We are emanating from him. It's part and parcels, and if we so desire, by his mercy, he'll give us the desire and the nature to worship these demigods. he gives us the process in the Vedas, in the Karmakanda section of the Vedas, a huge section. How to worship these demigods. And, you know, in your own concept, live happily in this world. It's not how you pull it off, but that's not how you live happily. Where did I do it? Oh, here we go. So don't mind, because I find it fascinating, because I wasn't raised in a culture that worshiped the demigods. No problem offering respect to the demigods if you understand that they're the servants of Krishna. We offer respects to everyone, what to speak of the servants of Krishna. But from such servants, we're not trying to get petty chump change. When I was a teenager, that was the thing. Got any spare change? That's all you're going to get from the demigods. In the chapter Pure Devotional Service, Shukadeva Goswami told Parikshit Maharaj that one who desires to be absorbed in the impersonal Brahma Jyoti effulgence should worship the master of the Vedas, Lord Brahma, or Brahaspati, the learned priest. One who desires powerful sex should worship the heavenly king Indra. One who desires good progeny should worship the great progenitors called the Prajapatis. One who desires good fortune should worship Durga Devi, superintendent of the material world. One who desires to be very powerful should worship fire, Agni. One who aspires only after money should worship the Vasus. One should worship the Rudra incarnations of Lord Shiva if he wants to be a great hero. One who wants a large stock of grains should worship Aditi, mother of the demigods. One who desires to attain the heavenly planets should worship the sons of Aditi. So Yanti Deva Vrata Devan, Pritrin Yanti Pratir Vrataha, Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja, Yanti Mad, Yajino Pimam. Worship the Devas, you get to go to them. So that's the icing on the cake for people who are absorbed in this material world, not realizing that it's the hellhole and that the spiritual world is our home, and that's paradise. That's what we're looking for, Vaikuntha, place of no suffering or anxiety. But if you worship the demigods, they will reciprocate, and you do it properly, you can go and live with them for some time. Enjoy a vacation with the demigods. One who desires a worldly kingdom should worship Vishvadev. One who wants to be popular with the general mass of population should worship the Sadhya demigod. One who desires a long span of life should worship the demigods known as the Ashvini Kumaras. A person desiring a strongly built body should worship the earth, Bhumi. One who desires stability in his post should worship the horizon and the earth combined. One who desires to be beautiful should worship the beautiful residents of the Gandharva planet. One who desires a good wife should worship the Apsaras and the Urvashi society girls of the heavenly kingdom. One who desires domination over others should worship Lord Brahma, the head of the universe. One who desires tangible fame should worship the personality of Godhead. And one, in other words, the devotees of the Lord, millions of years later, are being discussed. Their activities, their qualities, their glories. That's tangible faith. Not this 15 minutes of fame and then thrown away. One who desires a good bank balance should worship the demigod Varuna. If one desires to be a greatly learned man, he should worship Lord Shiva. If one desires a good marital relation, he should worship the chaste goddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. Now, Shukadeva Goswami isn't really encouraging Parikshit Maharaj to worship the demigods. He had just gotten through answering his question, what is the duty of everyone, specifically for one who's about to leave his body? And of course, it's here, chant, remember, serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the perfection. In the next verse he says, one should worship Lord Vishnu or his devotee for spiritual advancement in knowledge. Now we're starting to get there. And for protection of heredity and advancement of the dynasty, one should worship the various demigods. One who desires dominion over a kingdom or an empire should worship the Manus. One who desires victory over an enemy should worship the demons. One who desires sense gratification should worship the moon. But one who desires nothing of material enjoyment should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what's the next verse? Any idea from the 3rd chapter? Exactly. Balaram Prabhu gets it. Akama sarvakamo va mokshakamo dardi tivrena bhakti yogena tivrena yajeta purusham param. So one who has broader intelligence. The worshippers of the demigods, they are described as having opamadasa, very small intelligence. Boy, do they only have the small picture in mind. They don't have the big picture of life and reality at all. Just right in front of them. Or kamashtaishta riddhigyana, one whose intelligence is stolen by material desires, and they worship the demigods, prapadyantena devata. But one who has broad intelligence, udaradi, whether you're full of material desires, whether you have no desires, material desires rather, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You cut out the middleman. They're getting it from Krishna anyway. The Vaishyas always do that. When they want to get in with competition, they try to find out, oh, where's my competitor getting his product? Cut him out. Now I go to the source. I have cheaper costs, therefore I make bigger profit. Well, the advantage of worshiping Krishna is eternal. The benefits of worshiping Krishna are eternal. And as Krishna explains in that chapter I was just quoting, that the, limited and temporary. The fruits gained from the demigods are limited and temporary. So it's according to the modes of material nature that one is influenced by, that one develops the nature with the particular desires and worships the particular personalities that you do. Those who are, Vishuddha, is it? What is it? Sattva Vishuddhanam Vasudeva Shabditam. One who is in pure transcendental consciousness, he worships Krishna, Vasudeva. One who's in the mode of goodness, who does he worship? These demigods. Nothing to sneeze at being in the mode of goodness. I think some of us are aspiring and practicing in our Vaidhi Bhakti to become purified, to be fixed in goodness. The springboard to transcendental knowledge. So those in the mode of goodness, they worship the demigods. Those in the mode of passion worship demons. You see that all the time. Actually, I lump the material scientists in that category because they are so often engaged in horrible, unbeneficial works meant to destroy the world. That's the definition of demoniac. So people worship them. Our Prabhupada in the purport gives one example. He knew one man personally who worshipped the leader of Germany during World War II. Because of the war, he amassed a huge amount of wealth due to the black market. Best thing ever happened to him. So he did his puja to the leader of Germany. And then those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. And you can have the combination of the two. Because some of these people who worship demons, they engage in very tamasic rituals. Very, very dark, horrible rituals. So these are all the modes, and Krishna's laws of material nature are controlling those modes, thus controlling us. And if we want to get out of it, then this is what is recommended, this verse right here. When Lord Chaitanya quoted that one who has complete faith, that by rendering transcendental service to Krishna, everything becomes complete and perfect. I'm sorry, I saw something I shouldn't have on my phone that distracted me. Right after that verse, he quotes this one. He quotes this verse, that by pouring water on the root of the tree, the whole tree benefits. By feeding the stomach, supplying food to the stomach, all the limbs, the entire body is nourished. So as we as devotees, this is what we want to become convinced of. Krishna is God. He's in complete control of everything and everyone. And the more you become convinced of that, and the more you realize that you are also a part and parcel of His spiritual energy, and you offer, fully surrender your independence in His service, then you don't have a care in the world. There's no need to be concerned with, like yesterday was a what do they call that thing? An eclipse. The Smarta Brahmins very concerned. They won't cook, they won't do anything, everybody goes inside, nobody travels on the road, etc., etc. It's very inauspicious. You don't want the how do you say that word? The bad, malefic. You don't want the malefic influence to contaminate you. But the Vaishnavas don't care. Their activities of service to Krishna are not of this world. They're not under the control of some planet or some demigod. Now, we aren't on that transcendental platform, speaking personally, of unalloyed devotional service, free of all the contamination of the modes of material nature, but we are acting under the guidance and instructions of one who is, and as a result, we get the same benefit. We have the same protection. Anything thrown at us is done so under the supervision of Krishna, personal supervision. Super soul within the heart cares and stays on point. He doesn't space out. Oh, I forgot. No, He loves us. And He's completely there. And He utilizes His laws of material nature to reform us, purify us, and help us voluntarily surrender. So we don't have a care in the world. We may lock the doors, as Srila Prabhupada said, to the temple, but we don't stop the artiques. We don't stop the offerings thinking, And there is something to it. There is universal effect on everything. We can call it the modes, but the modes, they have their instrumentality also, everything that they're affecting. So food decomposes, etc. It's considered contaminated. I wouldn't be surprised if Ravi or Prakash's family, their mother or grandmother, when they cooked or had food left over and an eclipse is coming, they would put kusha grass in the pot, in the food stuff. Kusha grass originally comes from the hair of Lord Varaha. No, sprinkling, shaking his body and the water coming down, and then kusha grass. Transcendental. It's a very pure substance, kusha grass. Put it in, no contamination. Same way with Tulsi. Round Tulsi Devi, heck, she absorbs nuclear radiation, for heaven's sakes. That's just on the mundane thing. What to speak of the purification of that which is most subtle, you and I, the spirit soul. So the Vaishnavas are engaged. Everything we do, taking Charnamrita, saying, bowing down, actually saying the full prayers, anything and everything. It's not of this world. The potency of it is beyond everything of this world. And the scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam, they are trying to direct us to that full surrender. Why would you do anything else? Why would you distract yourself when Krishna will fully protect you? Krishna will fully maintain you. You will only become happy when you look to His interests and please His senses. I mean, why would you do anything else? When one comes in contact with the pure devotee and hears the message, it's only dull, conditioned, foolishness that keeps us from fully embracing it. 10th offense is not to have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after hearing so many instructions on this matter. So many. We're hearing it every day. And yet it's just natural, having been conditioned into the flow. We're surrounded by it in society, and the flow is just, oh, yeah, that would be pleasing to my mind. That would be pleasing to my senses. Not thinking of Krishna first, thinking, oh, I'd like that. Oh, I don't like that. But that's what's keeping us in the material world. We have to pray to get the mercy, guidance, instructions of the pure devotees. They have what we should want, what all of us here do want. And we have to endeavor. That's our part. We have to show our sincerity, our seriousness, so that they will be inclined to give us that which is most rare. Transcendental, loving devotional service to Krishna. Hare Krishna. So I think I'll stop early. I could go on, but I think I'll stop early. Is there any conversation in this regard? Any questions or comments, reflections, etc.?
I have a question.
Hare Krishna, Vijay Prabhu. Krishna.
May I?
Please.
Yes. Rajendranandana Prabhu, I'm confused in relation to the verse you chose for today, and in what way I am confused? I am confused in the following way. Often we hear from Lord, the followers of Lord Chaitanya, that we shouldn't be there expecting to or cultivating the mood of approaching Krishna directly. We should go for serving the servant of the servant of the servant, 1,000 times removed. So, but here in this verse, I find that the worship of the demigods is condemned. So my question is, isn't that the demigods are servants of Lord Krishna? Shouldn't we go first for the worship of the demigods, and then through the favor of the demigods get the direct audience and darshan of Lord Krishna? That is my question, please, if I may.
Thank you for a wonderful question. It's basically the same question in the beginning of the purport. How come you're not worshiping Krishna along with the demigods? The demigods, on the whole, realize they're servants of Krishna. Only they're influenced by material desire. That's why they have the posts, because they have some material desire. If you're a selfless, unalloyed devotee, generally speaking, you don't get put in that service. Sometimes. But usually it's based because you had a desire before you realized, oh my God, this is not what I really wanted. Like Bali Maharaj, he wanted to conquer the universe. And he did. Of course, everything's temporary, so it got put back into order and balance and given back to the sons of Aditya, the demigods. And Vamadev blessed him, saying, well, you can be Indra next whatever you would call it. Next time when Indra steps down from his post, Indra is a post. Different jivas occupy the post throughout the day of Brahma. So he'll get to do that. So they are the servants of Krishna. But if you have that understanding, then of course we have no problem. Just like you're reminding me of something that I thought about in relationship to this class, real nectar. Here the fools, because of their sense gratification, desires for sense gratification, are worshiping the demigods. But if you surrender completely and wholly to Krishna, solely and wholly to Krishna, then they will come and worship you. They will jump at any opportunity to render you service. Perfect example is in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Navadvip Bhava Taranga. And his doing parikrama, he had the darshan of two demigods that appeared before him. First one is at Modadruma Dweep at Arkatila, where Surya came. The sun god came. Had his tilak, his neck beads on. He had his japa beads. And he said, all of us demigods are servants of Lord Gauranga's lotus feet. And we are always anxious to serve the servants of Lord Chaitanya. And you're such a wonderful servant. So please, allow me to give you my blessings that you will achieve pure bhakti. And my only request is that occasionally you come here and chant your japa so that I can have your association and chant with you. How wonderful is that? Or in Rudradweep, he had the darshan of Sayuja Devi. All the 5 types of liberation are personified. Everything's a person. Merging into the Brahman effulgence, losing the ability to serve. And when Bhaktivinoda Thakur realized, when she introduced herself, and he realized, oh my God, you know, this is the most frightening thing there is. I don't want to lose a chance of serving Krishna. He immediately fell down and began offering obeisances and prayers, begging for protection and help. Somebody tapped him on the shoulder. Get up. You know who it was? It was Lord Shiva. He said, this is correct. You should have no desire. Don't waste your time with karma, jnana, or yoga. Pure bhakti, shuddha bhakti. This is what we want. And then he directed him, you go over to this place, Sri Pulina, where it's non-different than the Rasa Leela Sthan. And he actually, after getting the blessings of Lord Shiva, thereafter he realized his eternal identity of who he is in relationship to service to the Lord. Now this is something that I think you'll find very interesting, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, because you're asking, it seems as if the desire is to directly serve Krishna, but we always have to go through the devotees of Krishna. Is it both? Is it one or the other? What is it? So in Bhagavad Gita 1875, by the mercy of Vyasadeva, Sanjaya speaking, he says, I've heard these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who is speaking personally to Arjuna. I'll read the first line. Vyasadeva was the spiritual master of Sanjaya, and Sanjaya admits that it was by Vyasa's mercy that he could understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now this is what I want you to catch, to pay close attention to. This means that one has to understand Krishna, not directly, but through the medium of the spiritual master. The spiritual master is the transparent medium. Although it's true that the experience is still direct, this is the mystery of the disciplic succession. So you will have your one-on-one, face-to-face reciprocation with Krishna in the spiritual world when you go back there, by the mercy of the spiritual masters. And it is only by their grace that one is given the opportunity. They will teach us how, they will engage us, we will follow their example, and we will eternally have their protection and guidance. But they are a transparent medium. There are unlimited numbers of servants, and it's a hierarchy, as you will, like you said, 1,000 times removed. This is the mood. This is the proper mood. We cultivate that we're lower, we're more insignificant than all these other Prabhus, and that, you know, I just hope that I can get the blessing so that I can somehow or other be allowed to render some service to the Lord. With that humble, sincere hope against hope, the desires will be fulfilled. So does that answer your question? It is direct, but it's always through the transparent medium of the spiritual master.
Yes, Prabhu, that answers my question. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dr. Tyler.
So I do have a question about demigod worship, but I'm trying to remember in the Gita that Krishna says in a place that if we have some desire for material benefit, he'll give us the impetus to worship that demigod to receive that benefit, but ultimately we'll get knowledge by which that demigod may help us come to him? I'm trying to understand that yes, if we have some desire,
Krishna reciprocates with our desire.
but he will give us the demigod worship we need to get
desire,
that.
He will give you the nature with which to worship that demigod.
But then will that lead, because this is my question, will that worship then lead the demigod to ultimately direct us to worship of Krishna once we receive that desire? Well, this process works.
But that's not the process of demigod worship.
I don't like demigod worship. Either do us
I'm not
bhaktas.
saying you do.
Yeah.
But don't mix demigod worship with Krishna worship.
This is my question then. Is the demigod work, like before I came to Krishna consciousness, I had so many material desires. I want to get an A on this test. I want a 170 on the LSAT. Ravi and Prakash said that in India there's a temple you can go to get a visa. You worship a demigod to get a visa to come to America.
Hare Krishna.
Right? Yeah. So you can have very specific desires by which you know I don't have the ability to do this, but you're worshiping
laugh,
something
but
greater
yeah.
than yourself to develop that faith, right? You're just flexing a 5-pound weight.
So
Like,
who are you
okay.
going to have faith in when your desire is fulfilled?
I was hoping that, I thought Krishna said, I'll give you the knowledge or some action by which you can take that worship and then dovetail it into Krishna. Okay, I'll give you this little temporary benediction.
No, that
you really
happens
want that.
when you worship Krishna. Asking him.
But
for
what
the
if you don't know
fulfillment
about
of your
Krishna?
material desires.
You just
Well,
know.
ask Ravi or Prakash. Are your parents Vaishnavas? Are they Shuddha Bhaktas? Is there demigod worship leading them to the exclusive worship of Krishna, to give up that worship, to realize the desires are not
He doesn't
important?
say in the Gita, I thought, he just gives us the knowledge to go worship the demigod for that material
Yes.
benediction. Okay,
That's
my
not
fault.
bhakti.
I thought it was spring training to then, all right, come to the big leagues.
If you want to look at many lifetimes, then it is.
Okay,
That's the super gradual process.
no, we don't want that.
Not
Yeah.
one who is Udaradi has broader intelligence doesn't want that.
So I made a mistake. I thought that worship of the demigod, getting the benediction, gave us some faith that they could build on. Then my question is, the 4 types of people that come to Krishna consciousness, one is desirous of wealth. I never understood how that was helpful. It seemed like the inquisitive, the distressed, and the one truly desirous of spiritual advancement. I kind of get that. But one coming to Krishna consciousness who's desirous of wealth, how is Krishna reciprocating with that, or how is that
Krishna
applicable?
will reciprocate with us in any way in which we turn toward him. That's how wonderful a person he is.
But he'll personally give us that wealth, or because we have a demigod that handles the
He is
wealth.
not generally known as one who fulfills our material desires. But if you worship the Lord and you specifically back shelf your material desires, then generally speaking, sooner or later, the fulfillment of those desires takes place, but you've made sufficient advancement where you realize, oh, I don't need the money. Krishna's given me everything that I need. Why do I have to be overly concerned like I'm the doer and I need to collect the money? See, that's that Trivrena Bhakti that, of course, I have material desires. Like you started off, before I became a devotee, I had so many material desires. Well, I wish I could say I had no material desires. It's like the swamp. It's like every once in a while, it's like, where in the world is that coming from? A lot of times in dreams, where in the heck is that coming from? We got a stockpile, can't imagine, since time immemorial. So, when the desires come up, if we're intelligent, we tell Krishna, I don't want it. I don't want it. Pass the test. I was foolish. I want it. I don't want it. And I just want to please you. Please give me the opportunity to please you. So now you understand the separation. Demigod worship is not bhakti. That's why Prabhupada didn't even allow the Shiva Linga in front of the temple. Every Vishnu temple has Shiva there. He's the protector. He can give his mercy like he did to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He's the greatest Vaishnava. But people don't have that understanding. They think, oh, Shiva or Vishnu, they're the same. It's not the same. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, not Shravanam Kirtanam Indra, Shravanam Kirtanam Shiva. No. It's okay? Cletus? Glad we got that one out of the way. That's a big one.
Thank you very much. You made a very significant point, and during the initial of your dialogue, and here's my question. I know that I'm not exactly sure. I don't have an exact pinpoint of where the Sanskrit is in the Bhagavad Gita, but I know that it correlates to this point, and that is you mentioned that the tree, that the roots can grow upwards.
Start from the top, and it's an upside down tree.
Right. And my question is that in the Bhagavad Gita it says that all roads eventually leads to Krishna, right? It's somewhere there's a particular verse there that says all roads lead to Krishna. So my question is in the idea and your point that you made about the scientists that want to slow the motion down of the earth in order to alter the climate change, right? So my question is, within that metaphorically, is if a person, because in some aspect they're still worshiping Krishna, but in the mode of ignorance, right? Is that at what point does a person who is making these philosophical inquiries and that are in the demigod worship, the mode of worship, some of them are in the mode of ignorance, right? Is at what point do they come to Krishna? And then that where does Krishna reside in that? Because Krishna resides in everything. But at what form and what aspect would an individual come to know Krishna if they're making those philosophical claims and inquiring and diving in the mode of ignorance? At what point do they come to Krishna?
So, first of all, your premise is incorrect. All paths don't lead to Krishna. If I buy a ticket to Phoenix, I'm not going to arrive in New York City. Let's say New York City is the greatest city on the planet of the earth, and the goal is to get to New York City. You don't get there by buying a ticket to any other city. Now, you can claim you're close, but it's not. You don't use the words "all roads lead to Krishna." That's Mayavad. That's impersonalism. That's why they're worshiping demigods, because it's just as good as worshiping Krishna. No, you worship demigods, you go to the planets of demigods. You worship the ghost, you'll go to ghostly realms. You worship the forefathers, you'll go to where they are. You worship Krishna, you go to Krishna. Only bhakti takes one to Krishna. No other process, karma, jnana, or yoga, no other process takes you to Krishna. Now, Krishna says that as they surrender unto me, I will reward them accordingly. All men in all respects follow my path. Everyone in all respects, everyone follows my path in all respects. In other words, even when you're in jail, you're following the law of the land. You're being forced to. But the citizen walking free who's not incarcerated, they're also following the law of the land. But they're voluntarily doing it, but you're being forced to because you didn't want to, and that's how you end up there. That's the theory. So Krishna is in control of the material energy. If you don't want to surrender to Krishna, and you want to be Krishna by acting that I want to control, I want to enjoy, this body, it's everything, this mind's demands, the whims, etc. This is what I'm going to do my very best to fulfill. You don't surrender to Krishna. You don't make advancement in bhakti. But at the time of death, you have to surrender to Krishna because you're forced to leave the body and you're forced to take another birth where you have no idea what it will be. Because you simply remained, the person simply remained in ignorance and did not have the desire to associate with transcendentalists who could give us transcendental knowledge that would explain everything and actually give us the process whereby we could solve all the problems of life and go back home, back to Godhead. So that answers the second part of how, at what point do they become Krishna? Well, After how many births have we taken to come to this point to be devotees? Could be trillions. Could be several creations of the universes and their destruction. Nitya Bada, nobody really knows. But some of us are very, 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 very stubborn and foolish. But now we're fortunate. Now we are understanding. Now it behooves us to study, read these books so that you can understand things properly. Because only by proper transcendental knowledge does the heart become purified. When misconceptions are there, then the potency of the transcendental knowledge is not fully manifest. Doesn't manifest. Because, you know, it's like, how would you say? It'd be like some nectar drink that you made and then there's sand in it. You know, it's been adulterated. Nobody will benefit. No one will enjoy. No one will. So anyway, understood? Good questions, all three of them. Thank you for sharing with us. Anybody else? Thank you for your patience, your attention, your association. Srila Prabhupada ke, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ke, Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ke. Use the microphone. You'll still be on.
I was thinking to comment on what you were saying, is you're saying that, you know, Krishna says he gives the intelligence to worship, you know, whatever demigod or whatever you're interested in. But that's not necessarily meaning that he'll give you that intelligence because it'll be good for you. Because really any intelligence, no matter what I want to do, comes from Krishna. So if I want the intelligence to commit some kind of mass genocide, the intelligence comes from Krishna. Not because that's a good way to get back to Krishna, but because that's the only option. Krishna gives intelligence, you know. And so even if I want a reason, you know, if my desires lead me to wanting to believe in atheism, being an atheist, Krishna will give you the intelligence to follow and have faith in Christopher Hitchens or Sam Harris or some kind of demonic atheist, you know. So, but any intelligence or any kind of, you know, faith, you know, Krishna will provide, but not necessarily because it's, you know, a great path or really a path directly to him.
That's robust for two reasons. I was going to ask my question because it says if we want to defeat an enemy, we worship a demon. So I was trying to be like, how does that bring us to Krishna? And the other thing was, is it better to worship a demigod than be an atheist that said no gods exist? Because at least we're getting some feedback on faith. But then if I'm having faith in destroying an enemy, like what does that do? So I can see how it's all no good if it's not worship to Krishna, right? We're getting mixed up. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Implicating distractions. Yeah, good point.
Jai. Thank you, Mukunda.